So if I went through something too fast, or if you want to spend a little bit more time with something, no worries, you will have access to this. Sorry, go ahead.
I think you should be able to now.
Perfect. Okay, let me get all good to go on my end, and then we'll get into this thing. Okay. Perfect. How is that looking for everyone? Pretty good? Awesome. Okay, well, we are talking about graduate school admissions prep this evening. Are we still? Yeah, okay, cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and let Ella take our few beginning slides.
So Kaplan has a lot of benefits just for you guys being Hawkeyes and being a part of this club. MAPS members will get 15% off on Kaplan courses using our code Iowa15 here on the screen. And you can also have access to our Kaplan MCAT expert, which is Haley here. You can look her at, or you can book her at HaleyMiller.YouCanBookMe, which is on the screen here. And then also for some free practice questions, pop quizzes, and digital study guides, you can visit campus.captest.com/Iowa Maps, which is on the screen as well, or you can scan the code in the bottom corner here, and you can get all of those free resources for your upcoming MCAT.
Perfect. And then one more slide from our lovely SBA.
And then we also are offering an awesome Apple Study Bundle, which it comes with an Apple MacBook Air, Apple AirPod Pros, and of course a 6-month on-demand course for any of the tests that you want to take. So they're all listed here. And just scan the code right in the corner once again to sign up for that, and you'll be entered in to win our bundle here.
Fantastic job. All right. Again, if you maybe didn't have enough time to scan this, we'll make this available to you afterwards, and that will be good to go. So getting into it, the first exam that I'm going to start with this evening is going to be the MCAT exam. So the exam that you are going to take if you are looking to go into medical school. Here is a little bit of a timeline that we like to offer students. I think it's just really helpful to visualize what this process looks like because it is such a lengthy process. And it begins around 2 years before you look to start medical school. There's a bunch of options for like gap year options as well. But typically, if you are not looking to take a gap year, you will sit for the MCAT exam in the spring of your 3rd or junior year. It does take a month approximately to get your test back, your scores back. So we like to advise people to factor that into their admissions as well. And then beginning May and June is when rolling admissions open for applications. So that's when you're submitting your primary applications. Your secondary applications are going to be submitted by like August. And then the fall, following your application is when they're going to do interview offers, completing interviews. And then through that winter is when you will hear about offers being extended. So it's really like a very long process. You start medical school the fall of the following calendar year after you apply. So I think that's a helpful timeline for people. And then if you're planning on taking a gap year, you basically just bump it back a year or two. Medical schools do tend to accept scores from 2 to 3 years back, 2 to 3 years prior. So you can always take your MCAT score and then take a gap year if that's something you're interested in. There's a ton of different avenues for different learners and different approaches. So to cover content that's tested on the MCAT really quickly, there's going to be 2 different types of content. One is going to be the content that aligns with your pre-med prerequisites. If you are a pre-med major, you're going that route. This is likely going to include all of your labs. So biology, general / inorganic or organic chemistry, and physics. These are going to be likely required of you as an undergrad to complete your course studies, but it's also going to be tested on the MCAT exam. There is material that is going to be tested on the MCAT that may not be taught in your undergrad. It may not be part of your course requirements to finish your degree. These tend to be the biochemistry, psychology, and sociology. So if you have a little bit of wiggle room in your schedule, we do advise taking these courses because the content is going to be tested on the exam, and the less content that you have to self-teach yourself, the better, just because it is pretty intensive. It's a lot of different content that gets covered, and you want to have a really solid foundation in these areas before you get into the actual MCAT exam. This is a breakdown of the different MCAT sections. So there are 4 sections tested on this exam. 3 of them are going to be science content based, and 1 of them is going to be the CARS section, which stands for critical analysis and reasoning skills. The majority of all of the questions presented to you on this exam are going to be pulled from a passage. So they will give you a passage that has anywhere between 3 to 6 paragraphs in it. You'll be responsible for going through and getting the information out of that passage and then using it to answer the questions on the exam. The entire exam is multiple choice, so that is good to know. It is given online. You do go to a testing center and take it, but the exam is given online, fully multiple choice. And there is the breakdown of how many questions are asked in how many different minutes. The entirety of the exam is going to take about 7.5 hours. So that is just something to keep in mind. Part of the game for this exam is having the endurance to answer that many difficult level questions throughout that time. And that comes with practice. And then here is a science content breakdown. I think this is really helpful. I was talking with a student earlier today who is testing on Saturday and is afraid that they haven't learned enough physics. So they wanted to try and teach themselves all of physics before Saturday. And so I pulled up this graph and I was like, well, on the grand scheme of things, it's not going to affect you nearly as much as if you had to teach yourself all of biology. So it might be helpful to review the subtopics of physics, but because physics is going to be less than 10% overall of this exam, it won't be as advantageous to study all of physics a week before the exam. It is just helpful if you're someone who struggles with organic chemistry. This might be helpful for you to see that there's such little organic chemistry tests on this exam. But on the flip side, if organic chemistry is your strong suit, you might be a little bummed out because you're really good at OChem. I think it's just helpful to have a visual in front of you when you go into preparing for this exam. This is a breakdown of percentiles. So if you are scoring the 90th percentile, that means on your given MCAT exam, you scored the same as or better than 90% of people who took the same exam as you. Really helpful for getting into medical school. And you can see here, there's a pretty small margin between the different percentiles. So if you study your butt off and you're starting in around the 502 to 505 range, like your baseline exam is in the 50th percentile, but you study for 3 months, you do really intensive studying and practicing, you can bump it up just a few points, but that will jump you into the 75th percentile. At Kaplan, our claim is that from your baseline diagnostic test to your final real scored MCAT exam, we tend to see students who take a course with us all the way through, follow it as prescribed. We see a 15-point increase, which is really great. So that can bump you from a 502 to a 517, taking you from the 50th percentile to the 90th percentile. Our MCAT program design is structured in instructional order. So we like to start with the basic foundation. So instead of having it all scattered, we design it for you in a way that makes sense and is like a building program for you. So we start with the foundations of everything. We'll start with the foundations of physics, bio, chemistry, all the different subject matters, CARS, we'll start with that too. And then once you get really good at the foundations and the core content, then we bring in applied content, making it a little bit more higher level, showing you the things that are going to actually be tested on test day, and then also interweaving that material because you aren't being tested like in a chemistry vacuum, in a biology vacuum, in a CARS vacuum, or CARS is by itself, that was a bad example, a psychology vacuum. All of these are going to have a little bit of overlap with each other. So that's where we get into our program design. is helping you build a study plan that is making sure you're covering the core concepts as well as practicing the higher level concepts that are going to be tested on the MCAT exam. And then that is shown on this one. So we break it down into 3 passes. The first pass is going to be that content refresher assignments. That's where we're doing the foundations of all the different content areas. And then once we do that for a little bit, we get into an application or our second pass. This is where we're doing applied assignments with all of the content that we just learned or refreshed on. And then once we get really good at our application cycle, then we get into our prep cycle, which is where we're taking more practice tests. We're using more advanced question and passage reading strategies. We're not learning any new material towards the end of our study cycle. We're more taking what we've learned and applying it in a way that is going to be advantageous for this exam, because the exam is built so uniquely. We like to apply a lot of strategies to help you answer questions that may be worded in a confusing manner, identify different answer choices when there are a couple that seem right. We help you figure out which one is the correct answer choice and why the other ones are not. And we do this all while incorporating higher yield content, which is content we have seen given on past MCAT exams that is going to be consistently on these exams. It's content that if you study it and master it, it will give you a greater point value on your overall exam. All of our MCAT courses come with this personalized study plan, which I love very dearly. We like to recommend 300 hours of studying for this exam. And when you're self-studying, that can just be overwhelming. Just trying to figure out every week for 3 months what you're going to be studying and making sure that you're studying that effectively. So with Kaplan, we actually give you a calendar. We link all of your assignments to it. If you're in a class, we link your class directly to your calendar. So you should be able to just log in, do what is prescribed for you, and know that you are learning and using your time efficiently. We use a diagnostic test to set up your initial schedule. And then throughout your schedule, we're using quizzes and practice tests to assess and make sure that you're on the right track. And we will use our algorithm to update your calendar if we're seeing a little bit of a shift in one content area or another. I really love our personalized study plan. I think it is definitely the bang for the buck in our courses because it makes studying for this exam so approachable. And then this is going to be with the majority of the tests, everything that we covered tonight, not just the MCAT. But when you're studying, we want you to skip what you already know, because your study time is a limited, precious resource, and we don't want it to be wasted on the foundations, the concepts, the information that you already know. That is not going to get you a higher score on this exam. The way to get a higher score on this exam or any exam is doing the work and learning what you don't know. That way you're scoring higher, you're getting more points, and that foundation for what you already know is still going to be there no matter what. And then there is my fancy score claim. All of our MCAT courses come with personalized study plan that we went over, our question bank that is broken down by content area that has over 3,000 questions in it. Our books you get digitally and sent to you for free. We have live workshops and a ton of other really great resources. No matter the modality that you take our courses in, you will get all of those resources with our MCAT courses. And then we also offer a ton of different ways to learn with MCAT prep. So we do live, in-person courses. We do them all over the place too, all over across the United States. So if maybe you're going home for summer break and you want to do a course there, we will likely have a live course somewhere within a 30-mile vicinity of you. And we also offer on demand. So maybe you don't want to attend an actual scheduled class, or you can't afford it time-wise. We do on demand where everything is pre-recorded and you just access it that way. We offer tutoring, a boot camp, build your own, all different types of resources. And one of my roles here as your program specialist is to be able to help you identify which route works best for you. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to book time with me at the end of this presentation. And then here are some live online upcoming courses that we have. We have live online courses that start almost every week, and they go Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. Sometimes they meet once a week. So it really is dependent on your schedule. Here is my information. If you have any questions about MCAT courses specifically, my information is going to be the same no matter what you're prepping for, but we are running a promotion right now where if you book some time with me in April for totally free, costs nothing, I will get you enrolled in our free MCAT prep starter pack. That comes with a practice test, and then it also comes with 30 days access to your study calendar, some different learning modules that we have for the different science areas, some of that question bank. So it's a little bit of a teaser. It's a free trial for what our courses might look like if you're interested in that. All right, we're moving on to the GRE. This is the exam that I have taken. And this is broken down differently. It is a 4-hour approximate exam. This includes all different sections of it. So the different sections that are going to be tested on this are going to be the analytical writing assessment. And then you have 2 quantitative sections. Those are going to include quantitative comparison, problem solving, data interpretation. Then you have 2 verbal sections. And then we have an experimental section. The experimental section is unscored, but you don't tend to know which part of it is going to be unscored. So we always just advise people go in and test as if it's going to be given like as a part of their score. That's a little bit of a breakdown. We offer GRE prep courses as well. We do live online prep courses. So that's like a Zoom style. You don't see everyone that's in your class, but you're still attending a class session during the week. We offer on-demand and tutoring for these sessions as well. Here is our dental school admissions timeline. So if you're someone who is interested in taking the DAT, this is what it could look like, depending on your application cycle and when you're planning to go into dental school. Dental school scores or DAT scores are available about 3 to 4 weeks, almost a month after your test date. And then your primary applications, these are just some key things to consider when you're applying, take about 4 to 6 weeks to be verified. So it's a little bit on the same timeline as the medical school one. You are taking that test just a little bit later in the year. And then primary and secondary applications happen a little bit later as well. And rolling admissions happen in December to February. So that winter, almost into spring of the year following when you apply. This is a breakdown of our DAT content. So it's going to be 4.5 hours long. It's going to include the survey of natural sciences, which is 90 minutes. Then you get a perceptual ability test, which has 90 questions. And that is just like, are you able to perceptively interact with different clients and material? Then you get a break. Then you go into reading comprehension and quantitative reasoning. So you have more of like the reading skills and your algebraic, geometry, trigonometry skills, that sort of thing to finish it. Optometry school admissions timeline. So this one is ideal and possible. Ideally, you are preparing for it in spring, and then you are taking it May to June. Primary and secondary applications, again, open up a little bit later than medical school ones with this one. Opening up in July is when you're getting your primary applications in and your secondary applications in by the end of September. Interviews tend to range from September to November with, again, rolling admissions happening that January into spring. Here's a breakdown of what is on the OAT. It has the survey of natural sciences again, but now you're dealing with more physics. And then you get into that reading comprehension and quantitative reasoning. This one is also 4.5 hours. And then we have pharmacy school. So if you're looking to take the PCAT, the green is going to be the ideal timeline. So ideally you have taken it by July. That is when primary applications open. So I would say a little bit earlier than that. And then into rolling admissions, November through March again. So rolling admissions are generally going to be that winter to spring following when you take your exam. Or sorry, when you apply to your school. Here's a breakdown of what's on the PCAT. In this case, there is a writing section to start off with. Then you get into your biology questions, anatomy and physiology. Then you go into chemical processes, 15-minute break. And then you have just under 2 hours of critical reasoning and quantitative reasoning. We offer limitless prep, which is a little bit different. In this case, you just purchase our limited prep, you enroll in our limited prep, and it's limitless, I apologize. It's just all you can access prep, basically. So you get to access anything and everything whenever you would like to. And we also offer personalized tutoring for the DAT and OAT. Our PCAT prep courses, there's so many acronyms I'm going through, I apologize. We do self-paced and plus. So plus is where we give you a little bit of a steal on some tutoring or some extra bonuses. We also offer individual practice tests. So if you're looking to take that, and then again, we do offer tutoring. Okay, so I just ran through a lot of different information for a lot of different pre-health sciences. If you have any questions at all, feel free to book a one-on-one with me. Again, if you're interested in MCAT, even if you're like not taking it for a few years, I would say book some time with me, and it'll just be really helpful in terms of getting an idea of what that exam is going to look like, what questions are going to look like. If you want to talk about any of the other prep courses, feel free to book some time with me and we can chat about that, or just shoot me an email and we can talk about different prep options for you. That is my presentation. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing and hop off and see if there's any questions, if anyone has any comments, anything like that, I'm here for you.
Are the meetings on Zoom with you, or are they like in person?
They are like Google Meet. So it'll just send you a direct Google Meet meeting, and it's super easy to navigate. If there's any time, like if you don't see any time in my schedule that works for you, feel free to just shoot me an email and we will get something that works on the books.
Haley, I have some general like study strategy questions. So just across all of these tests, are there any specific strategies that Kaplan tends to recommend in, absorbing all this content and learning to apply it no matter the graduate school admissions exam?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think my main answer to this one is going to be having a schedule or an attack plan, because it is so much content to review no matter what like graduate exam you're looking to take. Having a schedule, especially if you're studying during your undergrad or during grad school or during a time that you have a lot of other stuff going on, it might sound very basic, but having a dedicated study schedule is going to make everything feel so much more approachable. And then when you are building that study schedule for yourself, start with your professional commitments. So your classes, your internship hours, volunteer hours, anything that can't really be rearranged, and then build in your personal time. So if you like to go to the gym, if you grab drinks with your friends every like Tuesday for Taco Tuesday, factor in your fun stuff before you factor in your exam prep. That way you are getting like that cup filled up and you're less likely to abandon your prep for those fun things, because it is like a little bit more evened out. And then we also tend to recommend studying for no longer than like 3 hours at a time if you can help it. Practice exams don't count. Like when you sit down and take a practice exam, sit through question 1 all the way to the end, because that's how you build endurance for this exam. But when you're studying content, learning material, try to stick to smaller study hours and diversify what you're studying and when you're studying it. So if you're studying for the MCAT, don't spend 4 hours studying just physics. If you have 4 hours in the day, I would break it up like that. And then I would do 1 hour, I'm reviewing chemistry flashcards. A different hour, I'm doing biology questions. A different hour, I'm reading physics chapters, and just really diversifying what I'm learning. That way I don't get burnt out, and I'm making sure to hit all of the different content across the board. Those are my general study tips for everything.
Thank you so much. Does anybody have any other either general or test specific questions for the test that they're preparing for?
Yeah, I had a quick question too about full lengths. How would you say the Kaplan full lengths kind of compare to the AAMC full lengths and like the actual MCAT itself?
That's a really great question. I have 2 answers to that. So one is based off of what I've heard from our students who take Kaplan. So I've talked to a lot of students who have taken Kaplan courses, of course, and then go on to take the MCAT. And the majority of the feedback that I get is that Kaplan's practice tests and full-length tests are more difficult than the actual day of MCAT exam. That is like a blessing and a curse. It's great because for the most part, if you take a lot of practice tests with Kaplan, we are testing you harder than as actually going to be tested on the MCAT, which hopefully will get you like a better score on MCAT day and will be a little bit of a breath of fresh air when the MCAT questions aren't as hard and confusing as the Kaplan ones have been. But then you also are taking harder practice tests for the entirety of your training and your preparation for this exam, which might be a little bit annoying in the moment, but I think it's definitely worth it to have payoffs towards the end. And then on the scientific side of this, we had this study that just concluded where we looked at the baseline for a ton of different students who took a baseline diagnostic, had not studied for the MCAT before, and then they took courses with us, like so no matter if it was on demand, in person, live courses, if they took the course with us and stuck to it as prescribed all the way through that study calendar for those 300 hours, we saw that average increase of 15 points, not just that, but we also saw that students could not tell a difference between like our, I don't want to say least hard, but one of the random Kaplan tests and the real MCAT test for that specific one. So that's showing you that even if it may not be like harder than the actual MCAT, you are getting on par level questions, on par level preparation and practice tests as what will actually be tested on your given test day. And to like tie that all up, we are not creating our prep tests, our full-length tests in a vacuum. Everything that we create has been pulled from released real MCATs or like real AAMC material that has been made available to us. So anything that we create preparatory wise for the MCAT has some sort of foundation in the AAMC and what they have released to us. Awesome. Yeah, thank you for that question.
Moesha, I saw you were gonna unmute yourself a little bit earlier. Did you have a question as
Yeah.
well?
Yeah, so from previous people who have taken MCAT, they have told me that the cars section is really hard. And so I was just wondering like what exactly is in cars and how to like best prep for that.
Yeah, that's a great question. That's actually my question of the day today, is I've met with a ton of different students today. And I've had the like, how do the tests compare and car section SOS conversation a lot today. Car section, I think, tends to be tricky for people because there is so much science content that you need to have like stored in your brain that it can get a little like lost a little bit in the back burner. And people tend to think cars like reading comprehension. I do that all the time. Like I got tested on that in high school. I can do reading comprehension. But then I get into the car section and you hop into a passage that has 6 different really intensive paragraphs all about like visual arts. And this is the only part of the exam where we are asking you to leave your prior content knowledge at the door and just listen to like what we are telling you. You have to go in with kind of a blank slate and just think from like what the author is providing you, the context the author is using, the wording the author is using, and use that to answer the questions later on. That can be a little bit tricky for people. And then a different thing that's tricky about cars is sometimes they make the question wording a little bit confusing because they are testing you on your analysis and reasoning skills. So they want to see if you're able to like cut through the fluff and figure out what they're actually asking you. Same thing with answer choices. A lot of the time, there are 2 answer choices that make no sense at all that you can throw out immediately, and 2 answer choices that look like they could both be pretty good contenders for the right answer. So there's a lot of strategies on like how to identify what makes a correct answer, how to identify what the actual question is asking you. Some of these strategies are retype the question yourself. So that way you're processing it in your brain. Your brain is taking a second to try and think about what they're actually asking of you. And then also rephrasing the question. So making the question make sense to you is going to be a big part of the cars game as well, especially if it's a little bit confusing, if it has like a double negative, anything like that. Rephrasing it is going to be super helpful. And then we always advise in cars to have a prediction of what the correct answer is going to look like. That is going to help you spend less time overall reading through the different answer choices and going back and comparing them to like all of the different information in your paragraphs. And it's also going to give you a little bit of like a boost when you are predicting the correct answer and you go through and find that exact right answer, and then you move on. A majority of cars, I think, comes with practice because it's less content based. It's more being able to recognize like what kind of a question is being asked, what they're expecting the answer to look like a little bit more. So I would say definitely take a look at cars early and often and be able to become like familiar with what it may look like in terms of passages and questions and answer choices.
I had a question on the classes you were talking about earlier.
Absolutely.
Are those like also like in person? Do you have to sign up for them? Are they free, or I just want to
Good
know a little
question.
bit more about them?
Yeah, absolutely. So we offer all those different types of courses. They are going to be, there is like an enrollment fee associated with the courses. That is what the 15% off for being a member of MAPS would be applied to. We also offer a lot of sales as well. So it does include like a price, but we offer in-person courses. We offer live online, so like Zoom style courses. We offer those on demand, which are going to reflect your asynchronous courses if you've ever taken one of those. So you're not necessarily meeting with like an instructor once or twice a week. You rather are just doing all of the information kind of like by yourself, but you also still get the calendar. And then when we get into those different types of courses that are offered for the different exams, those are also going to be associated with an enrollment fee. But there is like a breakdown of different types of online courses that are offered for the rest of the prep exams.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for the question.
I have a more general question. So we have members ranging from freshmen all the way to seniors. And so for our younger members, especially who might not be like thinking about this directly right now, but it's like in the very back of their mind, how would you recommend people who are a little bit more far away from the MCAT to start preparing at least loosely now for success later on?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I would say taking a look at like that timeline and having it really down pretty well. So if you're not planning on taking a gap year, that junior year spring doesn't sneak up on you and you have enough time to prepare. I would also recommend taking a look. This isn't necessarily towards MCAT, but it's a question I get asked a lot, is do some research beforehand on what the average MCAT score for your like top 10 schools is going to be. That way, you know, when you're going into taking your MCAT, if like the school you really want to go to generally accepts a 518 or higher, you have a target goal of a 518 is what you want to be minimum scoring. So that is going to be helpful when you're taking practice tests to have an idea of like a goal number. And then my other piece of advice for anyone starting, no matter where you are, is take a practice test, because it can be kind of jarring for people in the beginning when they sit for that 7.5 hours, when they see the car section for the first time, when they look at the science content for the first time. It can be kind of overwhelming. So I think the earlier on in your career you take a look at that and you sit through your practice test and you really provide yourself a solid example of what this exam is going to look like, that is going to help make it less of like an overall beast for yourself, and you can prepare more adequately for what a study time would look like. Great questions. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Are there any others?
Fantastic. Yeah, so we can send these slides out to you, and then if you have any questions at all, feel free to book a time with me for free or shoot me an email, and I will be here for y'all.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming here and presenting to us today. Can we go ahead and do our raffle? I have all the names set up just so we can kill the suspense that everybody's been waiting for.
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, so just so you all know, I pulled up a raffle generator and I put in all the names of the members who are present with us today, as well as anybody who emailed or texted me in advance that they wanted to be in the raffle, but they just couldn't come today. Those names are all in a raffle generator, and I'm just gonna spin the wheel. Not really spin it, it's gonna spin itself once I tap it, and then we'll see who our raffle winner is. And after that, we'll be able to send you a scholarship code. And Arem, maybe you can talk about that a little bit more and what all that entails, but why don't we get a winner first and talk about that? Sound good? Okay.
Yes, let's do it.
There's so much suspense right now, just in my like body. Oh, geez. So our winner is Quentin. Congratulations. Woo. Would you be able to tell us what all is in that scholarship that was just won, please?
Yeah, so I'm gonna provide you. So Kaplan partnership with MABS comes with a scholarship for one use. So it will include MCAT. I'm assuming Quentin, you're gonna take MCAT. Is this correct?
Said yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
That is correct. Okay, perfect. I just saw that. Perfect. So you can use that either for in-person course or live online or on-demand course for 6 months durations. So we have a lot of durations, but it's valid for in-person, live online, on-demand with 6 months duration. And then the expiration date for this course, which is pretty important based on when you're going to take the MCAT, is January 15, 2024. So you have basically close to a year, like I would say we're in April. So you have time to redeem that course until January 15, 2024. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send that code to Suzanne, and then she can distribute the code. And then she can also send other information that we just presented. Free resources, you can get the free list of MCAT events where it's happening, and we also have DAT, MCAT, DAT, PCAT, a lot of test prep. So it's been a busy day. So MCAT, GRE, DAT, PCAT events that you can just sign up for. I know that not everyone is MCAT here, so I just want to make sure that we're going to cover all of your members who are going to take a different exams as well, besides MCAT. But I'm going to share that link with Suzanne so she can distribute the link so you can sign up for Apple Study Bundle giveaway, which we're giving away MacBook Air, AirPods, and on-demand course scholarship. So there's another chance to win on-demand course scholarship with that as well. So but let us know if you have any questions. If you are taking MCAT soon, I think it's a great chance to meet with Haley and get your MCAT starter pack and ask some questions, discuss the course options, and ask some questions. That's why we are here for. That's why we partner with MAPS, so we can get you better benefits and better discounts to save money on your prep. So thank you so much for having us. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions, or did we exhaust our list? Those were a really good list of questions.
You're like, I'm done. That's enough information. I'm gonna take MCAT soon. That's fine.
Oh my goodness. If there are no more questions, once again, thank you to Haley, Ella, and Arem for being here and for sharing all this very valuable information with our members who are on multiple different pre-health tracks. As she said, I will be sending out some of the free resources that we have because of our MAPS Kaplan partnership, this presentation. It might be a little tricky, as you have all seen from my emails before, with large presentations. I can't send them all directly to everybody on the email list because the files are too big, but I'll send an email which you can reply to requesting for that information if I can't get it all in one. And then we'll disseminate that. This video will be posted to our YouTube channel. And then Quentin, I will get you that scholarship code via email as well. So thank you all so much again for being here.
Thank you so much, Suzanne, and thank you all. Let us know if you have any questions. Otherwise, have a great evening. Take
You
care.
too. Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.